Greetings, people on the internet. This is SSR3, and welcome to the first episode of Top Blank, which will be where I do my top 10 videos, though they won't always be 10. Now, if there's one thing in fiction that always ticks me off, it's controversial villains. Villains who think they have a moral high ground, and it's even more insulting when they actually have a moral high ground. So I'm going to go over the top 13 controversial villains, anti-heroes, and former villains that tick me off the most. Originally, Starlight Glimmer from My Little Pony was going to be on this list, but I never actually hated the character, and now that she's reformed, I decided not to have her on the list. So, number 13, Raphael, Yu-Gi-Oh! Raphael was one of the top henchmen for the villain Darts during Season 4 of the first Yu-Gi-Oh! Series in America, and helped Darts in his plan to resurrect the Great Leviathan and take over the world. Raphael came from a wealthy background, but sadly, on his birthday and on a cruise ship, he lost his family to a tidal wave, and he himself was stranded for months on a desert island, with only his cards to keep him company. When he returned to civilization, his surviving relatives only loved him for his money, so with nothing to live for, he joined Darts' cause, not knowing that Darts was responsible for the chain of events that led to him joining in the first place.
No. Yes.
Now, I know Raphael ends up reforming in the end, but I just cannot excuse his constant holier-than-thou attitude. Every time he dueled Yugi and Atem, the main heroes, he kept calling them evil and accusing Atem of having been a terrible pharaoh. And yes, like most of the villains in that season, he completely ignored Yugi and only cared about Atem since Atem is an ancient pharaoh. Anyway, it just really drove me crazy how he kept calling Atem evil and acting like he was so much better than him when he was trying to take over the world and wipe out humanity. And I know Raphael was supposed to be a foil for Atem because they both cared deeply for their cards, but I really hated how Raphael kept acting like he was a saint. At number 12, Megatron and Sentinel Prime from the Michael Bay Transformers movies. Now, you know Megatron is evil if you've watched any Transformers series. But in Transformers Revenge of the Fallen and Dark of the Moon, they tried to make it that he and Sentinel Prime were sympathetic.
What hip were you talking about?
Because they both claimed that they were trying to take over Earth in order to restore the Cybertronian race. And while that may have been true, it doesn't excuse trying to wipe out an entire race that had done nothing to them. Sentinel Prime was the villain in Dark of the Moon because it turns out that before the first Michael Bay Transformers movie, he made a deal with Megatron to take over Earth in order to restore Cybertron. And while I don't know a lot about the different versions of Sentinel Prime, that just doesn't seem to be Sentinel Prime's character. Next, we have Noatok/Amon at number 11 from The Legend of Korra. Being the son of a crime lord, Noatok had a harsh upbringing, even though he managed to resist his father's goals. However, he still tried to take over Republic City and try to take away everyone else's bending because of his fixation on equality. Now, while I'm all for equality, and I hate how the regular people were being taken advantage of by some of the benders, Amon does not have the right to take away people's bending, especially since bending is one of the things that makes the Avatar franchise so awesome. And of course, I didn't like how little respect he had for Korra and the well-known respected characters. Next, we have another few characters from The Legend of Korra at number 10, Zahir and Unalaq. I put them together because they're both members of the Red Lotus. While it's never really explained why, Zahir wanted to wipe out all the world's leaders because he believed that the world would be better off without them, while Unalaq wanted to take over the entire world by plunging it into darkness and becoming the Dark Avatar. I definitely hate both of these characters, but I hate Unalaq even more for severing Korra from her past lives, including Aang and all the former avatars we saw in the original Avatar series. Now I know Zahir's thing is anarchy, but the ends do not justify the means. And we never got a clear explanation in Season 2 for why Unalaq believed that plunging the world into darkness was a good thing, though it was implied that he was doing it all for power, seeing as we found out that he set up his own brother to be exiled so that he could become leader of the Northern Water Tribe. At number 9, we got Xander Payne from the Archie Mega Man comics. Xander Payne was a member of a defense force in Mega Man's hometown, and during Wily's original attempt to take over the world, he and his brother Theo were sent to try to destroy the original Robot Masters. Even though Mega Man told Xander that he was going to defeat Wily, Xander went after Alec Man anyway and ended up severely injured and permanently losing his left eye, and now he wants to get rid of all robots as revenge. After taking control of the terrorist organization, the Emerald Spears, whose original leader wasn't all that bright, he wanted to get the whole world to abandon robotics, even if it meant killing innocent people. As in, he was willing to kill innocent people, including Dr. Light, in order to get people to realize that machines are evil. And things get really trippy with Xander during the Sonic and Mega Man Worlds Unite crossover. Next, this one's a hard one for me. Modern Cyclops from the X-Men franchise. Cyclops is one of my favorite X-Men, second only to Nightcrawler, but I really hate what he's become ever since Avengers vs. X-Men. In the course of events that led up to the Avengers vs. X-Men storyline, Mutankind was reduced to only 1% of its population and was facing extinction. So, in Avengers vs. X-Men, when the Phoenix was supposedly going to possess Hope Summers, Cyclops, obsessed with restoring the mutant race, pretty much waged a war against the Avengers and ended up killing Professor X and making people hate mutants even more.
No! Exclamation point, exclamation point, exclamation point!
And while he regrets what he did, he still ended up becoming Magneto 2.0 and started causing even more trouble by forming a rogue group of X-Men. And now he's supposedly dead in the comics for waging a war against the Inhumans because of the whole Terrigen Mist thing from Avengers Infinity. I really hate what's become of Cyclops. He's so obsessed with protecting Mutankind that he's become the very thing he's fought against for so many years. And with the whole killing his whole father figure thing. And of course, because he killed his father figure, the Red Skull, or at least a clone of him, stole Professor X's brain. And we're still dealing with the consequences of that. And I just really hate that they had to go and make Cyclops stupid, and now his past self from all new X-Men has to deal with all this trouble. So next, we have Cyrus from Pokemon. Now, specifically, Pokemon Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum. Cyrus wanted to remake the universe in his own image / create his own universe. And didn't care that a lot of people in Pokemon would end up dying for it. And in the manga, he didn't care how many Pokemon needed to be sacrificed. Now, Cyrus was originally going to be closer to the top on this list, but then I remembered that Cyrus can't really help being what he is. He just happened to be born one of those people who doesn't get along with other living beings and only gets along with machines. Either that or Mesprit for some reason took away his emotions. It's really kind of a gray area where I stand with Cyrus now, but of course I'm still against him and his plans, and I'm glad he was defeated. Next, at number 6, Magneto and Mystique from X-Men. Now, these two truly have tragic backstories, but doesn't make up for the fact that all they ever do is make things worse for mutant. They claim they want to make things better for mutants, but all they ever do is commit crimes and make people hate mutants more. And I realize that I've forgotten a few numbers, but I'll take care of that in editing. But seriously, Magneto and Mystique are morons, especially in Days of Future Past, when even though they both sort of know what's going to happen if they go through with their plans, they still go through with them. Next at number 5, Jia Ying from Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Now, if you watched my Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. / Agent Carter rant, you'll know that I have mixed feelings about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. But Jia Ying is so far one of the worst villains in the MCU. So, she is the mother of the main character Skye, aka Daisy Johnson, aka Quake, and the wife of the scientist Mr. Hyde. Well, more of a doctor, really. So, Jia Ying was captured by Hydra sometime before sometime before Iron Man, and was literally dissected so that the Hydra head Whitehall could use her organs to restore his youth. Luckily, using her healing powers and Mr. Hyde's expertise on medicine, she was able to restore herself, but she was never the same after. But my problem is that even though she knows Hydra and S.H.I.E.L.D. are no longer connected, she still blames S.H.I.E.L.D. for what happened to her and intentionally wants to wage a war on S.H.I.E.L.D. by manipulating the many Inhumans under her charge. So she's basically Magneto 2.0. She's letting her personal feelings cause people to hate and fear Inhumans just like mutants. She claims she's trying to help Inhumans, but all she's doing is making people hate and fear them, especially since she tried to wipe out humanity by using the obelisk that contained Terrigen crystals to kill anyone who wasn't Inhuman, while turning anyone who was Inhuman into their true Inhuman forms. And she knowingly tried to kill Skye, her long-lost daughter, who she's been looking for 26 years, even after they were finally reunited because Skye ruined her plans.
You serious?
Now, yes, I'd be mad if my master plans were ruined, but seriously, trying to kill your own daughter, who you've been trying to find for 26 dang years. Jia Ying is truly an idiot, and as far as I'm concerned, a worse villain in the MCU than Aldrich Killian. And another thing I hate is that because of her, Sparkplug wanted to give up on being an Inhuman. Next, we got number 4, Kurata. The villain from Digimon that I hate the most. He comes from Season 5, also known as Data Squad. Kurata was basically Digimon Hitler. Because he was afraid of Digimon, he wanted to wipe out all Digimon and cause the permanent deletion of several Digimon, scrambling their data so that they couldn't become Digi-Eggs. And he turned the Japanese government against the Digi-Destined by convincing the government that they were turning on them. And to add insult to injury, even though Kurata was defeated, he never got what he deserved because he ended up blasting a hole between the barrier separating the digital world and the human world and ended up getting trapped in it. And yeah, he's probably rotting for all eternity, but I still would have preferred him being arrested and suffering more than just one punch from Marcus. Kurata is one of the villains that really ticks me off, Which brings me to number 3, Madara Uchiha from the Naruto franchise. Now, if you've been keeping up with Naruto, you'll know that Madara has already been defeated in the manga. However, his defeat was total BS. So basically, Madara was one of the founders of a Hidden Leaf Village, but he suddenly got the idea that the only way the world could truly know peace is by trapping everyone in the infinite Tsukuyomi, thus trapping everyone in a dream world and abandoning the real world. And so he manipulated Obito Uchiha, who manipulated Nagato, to cause most of the chain of events in the Naruto world, when Obito would have been fine being the main villain. And to add insult to injury, even after it takes everything Naruto and the allied Shinobi Alliance have to defeat Obito and free all the Biju or Tail Beasts, Madara completely uproots the victory by taking all the Tail Beasts into himself and becoming the new Ten Tails after Obito was just Ten Tails, completely undermining Naruto's victory against Obito, and taking Nine Tails / Kurama out of Naruto. Then, he ends up taking Obito's eye and ends up becoming what he believes to be the new Sage of Six Paths and succeeding with Infinite Tsukuyomi, leaving only Naruto, Sasuke, Kakashi, and Sakura to beat him. But then, the writers go and make it that Madara gets replaced by Kaguya, who we only found out about a couple chapters ago. And it turns out that her and Black Zetsu were responsible for everything that happened in the ninja world.
You're kidding. You're kidding, right?
All just so Kaguya could resurrect herself and take all chakra back for herself because she's greedy and selfish, even though she's the one who's responsible for chakra belonging to all of mankind in the first place. But I digress. I really hate how Madara just kept manipulating things and then resurrected himself. And I know this sounds insulting, but basically, he's a relic from the past who has no business with the present or the future, and he has no right to take away the future from the children, as in the main characters of Naruto. And I find it insulting that Madara Uchiha was never truly defeated. But I will admit that his abilities are pretty cool. Next at number 2, we have one of Marvel's most infinite villains, Dr. Doom. Now, Dr. Doom, sadly enough, is justified in his constant plans to take over the world. His mother's soul was taken by Mephisto when he was a child. His father froze to death protecting... Dr. Doom's father froze to death protecting Dr. Doom from freezing to death. And Dr. Doom found out that the only alternate future where humanity is saved is one where he's ruling the world, and even Black Panther's god, the Panther God, supports Dr. Doom. However, that doesn't stop me from hating Dr. Doom because he is annoying as heck. I hate how Dr. Doom is so arrogant and so petty against Mr. Fantastic and is always referring to himself in the third person. Seriously, who wants to be ruled by a guy who's constantly saying, "Doom this, doom that"? And, like I said, with the pettiness, how Dr. Doom is obsessed with Invisible Woman and is only obsessed because she's the wife of his rival, Mr. Fantastic. And what he does in Secret Wars of remaking things so that Invisible Woman and all the children of her and Mr. Fantastic belong to him. He basically remade things so that Invisible Woman's his wife, and all the children belonging to Invisible Woman and Mr. Fantastic are his. That is just absolutely cruel and petty. You'd think, as a god, Dr. Doom would have some humility, even in the Secret Wars event. And just to be clear, I'm talking about the 2015 one because there have actually been a bunch of Secret War events in Marvel. Now, we get to the honorable mentions. Dr. Octopus during the Ends of the Earth storyline, Dr. Wily, or at least he claims to be one in Battle Network 3 when he's manipulating Anetta, Queen Chrysalis in My Little Pony, Kuvira, the final villain of The Legend of Korra, Maxie and Archie from Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire and Emerald and Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, and the World Government from One Piece. All of these characters tick me off, but they're nothing compared to number 1, Getsis from Pokemon Black and White. Pokemon Black and White was an attempt to introduce new people and kids to the Pokemon franchise by basically trying to be a reboot, sort of. Well, at least they did that in the anime by resetting Ash from all the experience he previously had, and basically not showing any Pokemon from previous regions until after Ash got all 8 badges. Aside from Pikachu and Meowth, of course. Anyway, so Team Getsis and Team Plasma gave us players a hard message, finally acknowledging what people have been talking about for years about, is it wrong to keep Pokemon in Pokeballs and have them battle each other? Should we just release our Pokemon, or as they call it, liberate us? And while this is a very good question, Team Plasma shoots itself in the foot by constantly committing crimes with Pokemon and trying to steal them. Not to mention the fact that the anime, manga, and some games have shown that Pokemon, at least some of them, like battling and like being with trainers. So after going through a whole playthrough of thinking about whether or not Team Plasma's right, we find out in the end that Getsis was lying the whole time, and he was just using liberating Pokemon as a cover so he could make everyone in Unova get rid of all their Pokemon so that only he and Team Plasma would have Pokemon so they could take over Unova and the world. He was basically a cowardly version of Giovanni. It's one thing to have a message that's controversial and stick to it to the end, but to have it be a lie the entire time is insane. And what Getsis did to N, brainwashing him and manipulating him his whole childhood into being the figurehead leader of Plasma, etc. Just, Getsis has no class, and I'm pretty sure it was a cop-out so that people wouldn't have to feel guilty about catching and battling Pokemon anymore. And then in Black and White 2, and in the Black and White anime, they make it that Getsis is pretty much a carbon copy of Giovanni. So, that's it for now. See ya!